So, Elizabeth, are you going to go through with this? Are you going to go through with this?
Probably if you stop bugging the shit out of me.
That's how the law works.
The day of reckoning will come.
Obey your master! Master!
Why are we still here? Just to suffer.
Things because your mind is so far up your ass, you think that you know.
I'm trying to help you!
Hi, I'm a Splatoon drama YouTuber, and welcome to my nightmare. I think of the past 3 years of me finally waking up and realizing the mess of the Splatoon community. I'm still somewhat surprised to see so many people who have glaring issues in the community have not seemed to try and better the community in any sort of capacity. I mean, in what other community can you call out those who are making the community so toxic and unsafe, and to be punished just as hard and get hated as the worst criminals out there? There's no order, no one understands when to serve justice correctly, it's just pure and utter chaos. It seems like the Final Fest has certainly reflected on the state of our community as a whole. Now, after the game being out for almost half a decade now, people in this community still cannot find the correct way to serve justice in this community. Instead of working together to take down a potential threat, such as the time with the help of the TF2 community, the community silenced Heavy the Squid. It seems without the help of a community, we've just given a pass and let them to corrupt the community into an environment unsafe for anyone to be in. All they get is positivity and praise, since all their fanbase are just delusional children who are probably just as bad as the creator themselves. And the moment you try to call them out for their actions, they act like a little child, deny the hard evidence that you give them, or completely spin the narrative in their favor, since no one is willing to own up to their own mistakes and act like responsible adults. It's interesting that in the last few months, the Smash community and the entirety of the FGC went through a cleansing period of people coming forward of being victims of sexual abuse and take advantage of others. And during this entire time, massive names in the Smash community such as Zero, Nairo, and D1, it's made me question why hasn't the Splatoon community taken a page out of Smash Bros. Book? And I believe it's about time that we cleanse the Splat Source community once and for all. And with the case of how Scott was treated in his feud with TCS was probably the tipping point for me.
Enough from the clown!
Oh, what's the matter? Aren't you all excited to hear yet another Joxic Tales video? Isn't that why you're all here in the first place? To hear me complain about the Splatoon community? You know, I could take off this costume until I'm nothing but a kid wearing a black shirt and pants, and it won't steer me away of how much of an absolute mess this community is. Getting rid of the character isn't fixing the problem, it's rather pushing the problem away like they don't exist. And there needs to be people to fill in that blank space of serving the correct justice in an unstable community. Since there are core elements being forgotten which is causing such a mess in this community for the last few years. And I'm going to be covering those and covering incidents that have happened this year and super noticeable ones from the past. This video is showing the absolute mess that gets thrown to the side and the brutal double standards one side of a community can have for someone disagreeing with them, while realizing that they can contradict themselves. Some could say that this video is not about Scott. This is. Alright, so before I start analyzing all the problems the community offer, let's say you're just joining the Splat Source community and you don't know what to do and you need some guidance. So let me help you out here. Are you ready? So, you need to find your place in the Splat Source community. It doesn't really matter if you're an artist, you make SFM or Gmod posters, you're a YouTuber, whatever. What really matters is the side that you're on for now. For as long as the community has existed, the Splatoon Splat Source community has been divided into two different groups, which both despise each other for their own ideologies and the way they build the community. Think of this divide similar to that of the normies and the outsiders. The normies are, well, the majority, the mainstream. the hump of the bell curve, and my new favorite part, the complete fucking idiots. The most prevalent people on this side of the community are people like Ellie, Godelia, Pizza Hyper, TCS, and all of those who enable them to be who they are today. These people are the most well-known on both sides of the community, yet for not the right reason from the outsider's perspective. These members are much larger in the social ladder as they pander their audience to a more mainstream and younger audience. In short, you're bound to blow up in some way or another if you decide to ride or suck some e-dick off a big content creator, or post mediocre Gmod videos because, well, kids love that shit. There is a downside, which is ultimately the massive flaw for this side in general. If you're looking for genuine criticism or giving criticism, most people will praise you for what you do and not actually look into it critically and help you improve. Most content creators are not open to criticism for their works or them as a person, and it's really up to the outsiders to find the truth about these people since everyone has such a perfect view on each other like they can do no wrong. Most people are really dishonest and disingenuous with themselves, so proper friendships for people like myself are going to be hard to come by, as most members don't really care about more adult topics such as mental health. Double that with most of them being man-children who don't even understand basic knowledge, such as making sure that you don't share adult contents to a child. You can say for the least that this really supports criminals. In the short term of things, this side of the community may work, it's just you need to avoid those types of people who could potentially make the entire community into a cesspool of degenerates and perverts. If you're looking for a more genuine and long-term option for this community, I would recommend being on the side of the outsiders. The outsiders are those who reject the mainstream taste of the splat source media for a more honest and serviceable taste for the community. The side consists mostly of the commentary channels such as mine, Flying Scots, as well as General Salty, as well as the drama accounts reporting any incidents that could be deemed damaging for the reputation of the community. By large, our side is much smaller in size as well as notoriety compared to the normies, so while you may not get as big as some of the other normies out there, if there's one thing you will receive, it's respect and honest opinions if you put the time and effort into helping them out. When I was first discovered on this side, I wasn't super respected. I was kinda in the middle ground that didn't fit into either side, an exile if you will. As time went on, I took the criticism I received, I tried to better my content that I've made, and well, here we are today. I got a better microphone and I invested money into some other necessities such as a tripod and planning a budget as well as times I need to record myself as well as skits with my friends. I think if you're looking for more honesty and ways to improve yourself, the outsiders are the way to be, as it's the better part of the community to be in for the long term. Most Twitter and Discord servers I join give almost daily news on situations going on. And the only thing that'll really cost you is your sanity, as you'll experience the pain and suffering of needing to deal with problems that adults should be able to deal with on their own. Yet all the members are incapable to solve their own problems. Other than that, the outsiders are just miles ahead of the normies for having common sense, having superior media, and finding solutions to solve issues as well as to eradicate those potentially making the community into a toxic environment. We are heavily censored by the mainstream, as the majority of the normies are very self-centered and aren't open to criticism, since they'll more likely block you for giving common sense, showing how sensitive most normies are to criticism. Alright, now that I got that out of the way, let's dive into a recent issue that's taken the mainstream on a wild ride in the last year, and that's being exploiting suicide. It's kind of no secret to this community that most of the members, all they aim for is clout, no matter how they get it. Whether it's writing someone's edict or the worst type of way to get attention, they'll take any opportunity without realizing future consequences later down the line. A perfect example of those terrible decisions on getting attention is to commit suicide. Well, not really. They more trivialize human life. You may notice that I named this section Kill All Your Friends, and I think that the fake suicide is similar to the song of the same name by My Chemical Romance, All of Your Friends, the community, comes together when someone has, died, and how you all kind of just want to party once it's all over. So why not kill them off to save some time? I said this once in the beginning of the video and I'll say it again. This video is not recommended if you're emotionally touched by suicide. If you're an easily sensitive person, please turn away now and go watch or do something that you enjoy. This video goes into very serious and damaging topics and it's not recommended for the people of the faint of heart. Too long didn't read for those not bothered to watch this. Under any circumstances, you should never attempt to take your own life since you're cutting your life short, and no matter how fucked in the head you must be, you all have a reason to live. If you ever do feel suicidal, I would recommend you to go see a trained counselor or therapist, or calling the suicide hotline in your designated country. And for whatever circumstances are, you should never attempt to fake a suicide, because there are a lot of people who have lost someone special and dearly to suicide or have had thoughts of it. Faking your death is literally writing your death sentence, since you're no longer having any respect from people who are trying to clean up this community. By faking your death, you are making suicide and mental health a joke in the community, primarily populated with children. With all that out of the way, if your entertainment is listening to an Aussie kid complain about a clearly unstable community, well, buckle your fuckle. Brian Jackson is one of the first people that comes to my mind when I think of faking your death. I've mostly covered him in the TCS videos, the entire build-up of showcasing TCS's actions, and showing how much of a hypocrite he was for attacking Brian. Now, in no means is Brian some saint gifted from the heavens, believe me. He was also a very problematic person as well. Brian had his own issues, okay? He wasn't open to criticism, and he deemed it harassment. He would harass people to no end for cutting off their friendships with others, in the case of Rudy, and eventually committed suicide, quote-unquote, around July of 2019. Well, again, not really. Around September last year, he went by another alias known as the Mystic Blaziken. No one really knew who he was until he was exposed by someone who went by the name Luna. As TCS discovered 5 months after his suicide, Brian started a gaming channel and reactivated his main channel, yet it was closed quickly due to criticism and hate he received. Then around the end of June this year, he went back for the 3rd time on his main channel, addressing where he has been in a public apology. Link would be in the description if you want to watch it, as I am not going to explain it. We'll be here for another half an hour, and yeah. The apology itself kind of has some red flags. For a start, it sounds very robotic, if you know what I mean. So I worry if it's even genuine to begin with, but more likely he probably struggled recording this, since you need to have a lot of confidence. There are some parts that don't seem very genuine as well, like I'm betting that you faked your death to avoid the criticism and hate you were getting, but I can't be the judge of that, as he stated that he was severely depressed. I mean, depression itself is very hard to talk about, but seriously, if you're depressed that you couldn't take criticism and hate, that you just banana snap yourself, like, please grow up here. I'm glad that he actually seeked therapy, unlike some people in this community who seriously needs it. He makes a lot of promises, such as make sure not to repeat history, so I'll hold the statement against him once he somehow experiences another downfall. I normally don't believe in the theory of changing, since change takes a while for it to happen. There's a lot of self-reflection that goes into it, and takes a lot of courage to step out of that boundary to change. Change doesn't happen in like 5 seconds. It takes months, years, even decades, until you finally understand what has been weighing you down this entire time. A lot of members in this community say they change in like a week or 2 time, and believe they're automatically innocent. Please, by any means, do not believe these people, as they are blinded to thinking that you're shunned by saying that you've changed, as it takes a long time to truly change. Seriously, what's stopping them from doing the exact same thing? Getting a slap on the wrist by me and drama accounts? There's little to no consequences that comes with it unless the mainstream media deems it as an issue. So, do I forgive Brian Jackson? No. But is he capable of change? Of course he is. I can maybe forgive someone who cannot take criticism and finally being a big boy and actually taking it, but I can never really forgive someone who faked their death. He makes a lot of promises, so I hope he doesn't pull a Sean Murray and make a ton of promises, yet never does any of them. I can definitely tell that he has used this death as a way for self-reflection, understanding his issues, and hopefully he fulfills those promises that he makes for his fanbase. I'm not giving him a second chance because life after death isn't sunshine and rainbows for everyone, especially for the next people I'll be discussing. Now this is more of a recent topic, and I understand some people who are watching this may already know this already, but it's best to explain it to those who are not aware, as well as to refresh our minds. On May 18th this year, the user Axel Lobsterlord sadly passed away in his sleep due to lung cancer, and he gained a lot of traction for his passing. You may know that I'm smoking, but trust me, there's a reason like Inky X Kitty, after seeing how mediocre she was on social media, the amount of positive attention Lobsterlord received, took this as a chance of boosting her social status in the community. Since on the 20th of May, 2020, 2 days after Lobsterlord's passing, a distressed mother of Roxanne, or Kitty, took it upon Twitter, of all places, to inform people of Kitty's passing. Everybody, make sure to write this down, because trust me, you do not want to fall into the same pit Kitty has put herself in, since this is a one-way ticket on how you can destroy your career in a matter of a few seconds. The tweet was posted at around 2 AM. Within less than 2 hours, you confessed to a user that you clearly did it as a stunt for attention, showing how insensitive you are to take the opportunity to gain attention from the passing of another person. blamed it all on your mother, as well as personal situations you were going through, and made a sock puppet account for people to send death threats to you. Oh, did I also mention that Kitty X Kitty also made the document for his suicide and used emojis? Something a distressed mother would probably not use when they found out that their daughter has committed suicide? And to top the cherry of the shit sundae, in the aftermath of getting despised by the community for profiting off death, the post was taken down, and you asked your Hugbox of fans if you could leave or stay in the community. And to be honest, after you faked your death, there's really only one way you can go. And that is down.
Downward spiral.
Since you can never really regain any respect back since, because, well, you toyed with human life. And I really can't forgive someone who admits literally less than a few hours later. Oh, and the best part is that she denies it ever happening. Like, you're an actual fucking joke for kids your age. You don't deserve any of the attention for profiting off someone's passing. Enjoy your 5 seconds of fame to be labeled as a failed content creator to lack any personality to build an audience. You are now free to ride down the train of obscurity. And if I'm going to be completely honest, after all the Kitty drama that happened, most of the community just kind of forgot that she existed. Because the situation really showed the type of person she was. Forgettable and I'll be finishing off this bit from a sentence from my good friend Flag Scott about the situation. Kitty, Kitty, Kitty. Your mother carried you around for 9 months, suffered immense pain to get you into this world alive, and this is how you thank her? You blamed a failed fake suicide on the one person still willing to put up with you. Hey, Future Sam here. So, on the 29th of July, Kitty rise from her grave and came back into the community. She stated that she was seeking help and actually came out of the closet, which is great to hear that. Yet, it still doesn't excuse the fact that she trivialized human life. So, again, like with Brian, I cannot forgive her for that, but congratulations for coming out. Now, on to Axel Lobsterlord. You might be wondering why I'm mentioning this person since I've stated earlier that he passed away, right? Well, I kind of have an expectation for people to, stay dead because people think they're like some anime protagonist that they can just come back from faking you death. My guy, you are not Byleth! I really don't understand how Axel Lobsterlord was trying to win us over by releasing a twitlonger on his main Twitter account explaining his life story for strangers on the internet to know. That's really going to let us forgive you for profiting off human life. I always like to tell myself that people who fake their death for attention should not be trusted at all since all respect you had once has now been thrown out of the window. It's just such a shame that you end your career this fucking early. Like, it's actually disappointing using the excuse that you're a child and you should know better, because that's bullshit. You're fucking aware of what you did. Because with you saying that you were not wanting clout out of this situation, but then doing a 180 and saying it was a social experiment to see how a community would react to someone gone, only further pushes that statement that you were knowing exactly what you were doing. Like, who do you think you are? Fucking king of the Splatoon community or something? Like,
Not your fucking servant?
Going back to the life story, how on earth are we going to believe your life story when you've, trivialized human life? Like I've said, any ounce of respect or legitimacy you had is just gone. You see that window over there? Yeah, that's your legitimacy gone out the window. And of course, the coward had to privatize his Twitter because he got exposed for exposing his fake death himself. Lobsterlord, do you know what happens when you try and fake your death? Do you know what happens to those who blame life problems for a bad decision they made by toying off human life? Do you know what happens to those who act like a coward and hide themselves after being called out? Do you know what happens? Axelord, you just made the list! On a serious note, I am absolutely disgusted by individuals who fake their death. Since seeing it happen just further pushes that narrative to think that in this community, suicide as well as mental health is not meant to be taken seriously, and you could just use it as a tool to have a fresh start or to gain attention. It boggles my mind that these people have an expectation to be respected later down the line, with people forgetting how they got popular in the first place, and I'm not going to stand by that. I think these two individuals are prime examples of why you should never attempt to fake suicide, as it can backfire you exponentially in the future, especially in the case for Kitty. There are many other methods to gain popularity and attention, such as being exceptional in art, having a lively personality, or being a personality on YouTube, like a Gmod. Majoxic! The Gmod is a sexual predator to just make pornographic artworks of underage characters. Oh, don't even get me started on pedophilia. This community, in all seriousness, treats actual pedophiles better than the victims of said predators and content creators like myself. and everyone seems to be fine with it all. I mean, I wish I was exaggerating, but this is true. Time and time again, I've constantly seen individuals being victims of pedophiles, and for the most part, the victim is completely dogpiled by a bunch of delusional fans who are probably just as bad as the perpetrator themselves. A great example being Ellie Godelia when Heavy the Squid left the Gmod community, he made his ravenous fanbase dogpile her with threats. Now, as a rule for any adult or peer out there on the internet or life in general, no matter how big or small your following is, as a peer you should look out for the red flags when it comes to adults making contact with minors. As a victim, you have all rights to tell the perpetrator to back off, and if they don't comply, get support immediately or block them if it's online. And if it's an adult, it's your responsibility that none of this behavior such as sexual activity with minors do not occur or prevent it from occurring. But it seems that the only people who sees adults getting into online relationships quite suspicious are drama accounts and people like myself. I mean, it's a tactic since minors are not openly critical to think of what's going on. They believe it's fine since the adults are seeing it as okay. And without the predators knowing, they've just passed that trait on to another victim because they're not openly expressed into thinking that. I must say, it's a smart manipulation tactic. That is, if you have a half-functioning brain cell left inside you. When they get called out for their actions on minors, they either protect their tweets or stay silent, dogpile drama accounts with their fans, or in the case of one absolute genius, try to change his alias to avoid the predatory intentions conflicted on his old alias.
I'm really excited, dude. Grab your popcorn, grab a fucking bag to throw up in, and let's play this shit.
Play that shit, homie.
Dean Ma the Squid is the newest addition to the amount of pedophiles in this community. I find it ironic that I'm speaking about pedophilia so lightly since this shit happens almost on a weekly basis at this point. He's been exposed for grooming minors, emotionally manipulating them, and not taking criticism. I wonder where I've heard that one before. And threatening people. Jeez, I fucking wonder where. Now, I'm aware that my good friend Lieutenant Blaze has covered this drama on his channel and he does a fantastic job doing so. But I decided to talk about it here so a wider audience can understand what's going on. Dean Ma has recently called out when people have discovered he was dating 6 minors during his career. Now, the most recent being Queen Luna, with her age difference being 15 while Dean is 18. It may not appear too bad as long as the two didn't do anything sexual, right? You bet your ass they did. The other victims also come out saying that they were also involved sexually, being in a not safe for work chat room on the server. And on my own investigation on this situation, it appears that he also came saying that he asked a 14-year-old for nudes. Yikes. Now, I don't want the excuse of they were mature for their age, because this is how predators get a hold of kids. Thinking that they're smarter than those their same age while still being very naive with life. Luna is not physically allowed to consent to this, since the age of consent in most countries is 16. And with most adult content online, you must be 18 to access it. But Joxic, what about the other victims? I mean, they must be old enough, right? Oh, fuck, I wish they were, so I didn't need to talk about this fucking loser. Dean has also dated 5 other minors with the age of the victims where they were also in contact with Dean. Rydog, who was 14 at the time, 13. Another Luna, who I'll refer to as Luna 2, who was 12. Belle, I couldn't find a tag, who was 14, and a few others who would prefer to stay anonymous. Dean was 16 with Luna 2 and 17 with the others. Truly outstanding.
But I'm not done yet!
Like I mentioned, he had a not safe for work chat with these minors and would frequently talk to them privately in a sexual manner. He would also guilt trip them if they don't comply with his sexual activity, a common manipulation tactic used by predators towards children in this community. I have the most certainty that Dean was very aware of what he was doing, as well as telling himself, to stop at one of these screenshots provided. Once people caught wind of it, Dean openly expressed on Twitter that he wasn't the one who took criticism well, and gave a pathetic excuse to leave Twitter and gave an apology afterwards, which is meant to say, I'm sorry that I got caught. I thought maybe dating 1 or 2 minors was bad enough, but 6? I've never heard such a thing before. I'm forever thankful for those minors being brave and coming out and sharing their experience with Dean Ma, because in order for this community to be in a safe environment, we need to eradicate these vile people and criminals. Yet, at the same time, I am highly disappointed in this community for defending Dean's actions and not complying with the victim's evidence. It's extremely saddening that the victims in these situations can only get their words out to people like us, willing to put an end to this toxicity, while others are, totally fine for them to roam around, enabling predators to have a field day in the community full of children. I hope that if you're a fan of Dean, you can come to your senses and to, wake the fuck up. It's ironic looking at the retweet of you telling Naira that he should go to jail, knowing the actions that you've caused. I think you two might get along with each other. Say hi to him if he is your cellmate, actually. And, Dean, I'll let you on in a little secret. Prison isn't a fun place for predators such as yourself. This person, in my opinion, is probably the most pathetic case of a predator I've ever heard of. From my understanding of this person, Clockgun was a 19-year-old Splatoon personality on YouTube who was exposed to being in a sexual relationship with a 12-year-old girl, being a 6-year gap. But that's not all, folks. After being exposed for his predatory behavior towards a minor, Clockgun abandoned the Clockgun alias, deactivated and abandoned any social media revolving around his old alias, and went undercover with a new name to avoid negativity and the criticism he received for being a predator in this community. And, well, it didn't take long for us to find out. My man played Spy for a week and got caught by Team Red. My final person on the chopping block is Inkto Rosalina. Now don't let the name fool you, as this is a guy that we're speaking of. If there's one thing such as me and Scott would take for granted, it's doing the work for us. So from what I am aware, this started as a harmless joke from Scott awakening a main character to awaken from his slumber into a fitted rage against the Scotsman by calling him a heartless, degenerate, fuckface arsehole who's ruining the community. A quick note, the user who said that she is on the brink of insanity is completely impossible to tell. Unless you have studied psychology, there is no way you can understand that you are truly insane. I don't have one, and I am certain that this user doesn't have one as well. You are not insane, I'm just saying that. With my own personal interactions with Scott, he's been a very honest and helpful person with the recent videos I've worked on. Hell, he's helped me with this part in general. And if you're that sensitive towards him giving you the slightest bit of criticism or calling your actions out, I'll let you in on a little secret to you, Rosalina, and the other members of the mainstream. The other drama people in this community are going to be 10 times as worse as Scott, so I would recommend you to grow a pair. Naturally, the Scotsman did a little bit of investigation. Without going even too deep down the rabbit hole, he discovered that this user was in a relationship with a 14-year-old while he was in his 20s. A very interesting line to say when you've defended pedophiles while you yourself are one. But joystick, it was all in the past. Pedophiles are like the flu, they never fucking go away. It is by far one of the most invalidated excuses, since there is no repercussion of doing it again, except for people like us to tell them how much of a shit human being they are. And of course, because the Scotsman called you out, you tried your hardest to mass report him for calling you out. Why play dumb and the victim at the same time to people who have more common sense than you? You are not the victim here, yet you still haven't figured that out. You've pretty much literally allowed Scott to play the victim card after threatening him. And to be honest, I could go even further down the rabbit hole for you, but I've already achieved the two things that I need. The evidence of you sending a dick pic to a child, as well as some identification. Take it in. Embrace it. And if you see this man, report him. And in the end of it, all of this could have been avoided if you just kept your mouth shut and didn't have a sign saying that I'm a predator. Because let's face it, no one in their right mind would ever have a sign that showed that they are a threat to children on public display. You know, I'm sort of glad that these predators in the community aren't committing, human trafficking by asking where the child is and only doing to, pop one off. It's still disgusting that these predators do that, but I can now have a sigh of relief that no minor was actually in physical danger. The thought of those people using human trafficking to find their victims scares me, knowing that there's other predators out there who actually do. Stop! See how easy it is to get down to the pedophile rabbit hole? Yeah. Well, circle it back to this community. The Spatsource pedophilia problem has been so massive to the point that the people willing to actually solve it is the drama accounts exposing the damaging behavior and to the outsiders of the community. And the mainstream media is willing to get rid of these drama accounts instead of the child predators. And that point shines through with the recent predators as well as the treatment of Scott. It just doesn't make any sense. Unless we could switch off the brain to dive twice as deeper with the cost of being twice as dumb. If I had $1 for every time that I found something stupid happen in the Splatoon community, I think I'd be probably living in a mansion by now and not needing to be ranting on the internet about the inbred Splatoon Gmod community. It's actually ridiculous and how hard some people defend or sim for another person to the point I just kind of feel bad that they spend time out of their need to defend someone on the internet because they idolize that content creator who's in question of the fact they consider their online sister. Fuck off. These type of people are probably up there on my least favorite members of the Splatoon community, just below the pedophiles though. So they provoke a nature that makes the community just so toxic, and it honestly is just pathetic that you feel kind of sorry for them. You know, I would kind of feel bad for Thaderix, but I mentioned this in the Inkto Rosalia situation, that when you pick a fight with Scott, don't think you'd be coming out of the situation victorious. So for context, Flying Scott released a quickfire video going over some Splatoon drama, and mentioned Rudy for manipulating and convincing TCS to make animations again, which I briefly mentioned in the TCS video. But I didn't go too in depth with it because around the time it was posted, it was pretty recent till I was releasing it. Thaderix, one of Rudy's friends, decided the most genius response was to send an MP3 file and his thoughts on it, threatening Scott for criticizing Rudy in his video. And if there's one person who should probably not get on their bad side, it's Scott and pretty much every other drama-related channel, since they'll make sure to leave no stone unturned for the likes of you, Thaderix.
I'm sorry, Scott! Oh, fuck. Okay.
Make sure to take a shot every time that this man smacks his lips. Trust me, you won't have a fucking liver after listening to this.
Like it's on me. Put it on my tab, kid. However you get there, put it in the cabin.
I'm going to be real serious with you. I'm sorry for laughing. I really am. Not! Do you realize who you're talking to? Who you're referring to?
Someone who should not be part of this community who is currently being defended by a motherfucking simp with little to no recognition of this community?
My best friend.
Fuck off.
So, she doesn't want TCS to leave the Splatoon community. That is not your concern, and if she can't animate, so be it. She'll learn eventually, but you leave her ass alone, or you're gonna deal with me personally.
Oh, and what are you gonna do about it? You're going to hunt us down if we're going to talk shit about your queen that you're currently simping? You know, I would feel bad for you, but at this point, I really don't have any sympathy for anyone in this community.
And if you expose me because of that?
Honestly, I don't even know at this point if I'm trying to hear a response to Scott. Are you trying to give me an ASMR session for lip smacking, or you're trying to audition to be the next Heath Ledger Joker? I'll let you be the judge of that one, though.
That's less of a fuck I could give right now. Okay? Have you ever met me like this, Scotty? Scottina. Whatever you call yourself now these days. I don't know. Apparently I don't I was fucking speechless when I first saw the video. At least that Rudy part. About my best friend. My online sibling.
Your online sibling?
Stop it. Get some help.
There's a saying. You walk the broken road once. You hurt yourself. You walk it twice. You're dead. But you walk it 3 times. There's no going back on the kind of fucked up person you are.
You know, it's actually kind of ironic that you say that, since you use that quote while hopefully you understand what you've done with Yoshi Lover. Saying age doesn't matter, both text and physically, as well as kissing the heels of drama accounts such as General Salty, Scott, and LOL Attack, before all of them expose you for what you're doing. Stop trying to be some sort of sick cunt by using the quote. You look like a fucking spastic.
So go ahead. expose me because of that. Put another Splatoon Twitter drama on me. Why don't you? I've done fucked up shit before. You don't even want to know what I did in the past. It's up to you to figure it out anyways.
Oh, don't worry. I'm one step ahead of you.
Max, so why do you keep talking about age of consent, dude? Theta, what do you think about age of consent, bro?
I don't actually worry about that.
But why are you ignoring it? Like, why do you say fuck age? Like, why? Don't you know?
I know the age of consent. I really do.
Then why?
But sometimes I don't even want to worry about it.
Well, then that just makes you a pedophile.
Live my daily life.
Then you're a pedophile.
Hell, even if I get exposed by Team Downfall.
She's 13.
She's a teenager.
Yeah, but that still counts as a minor.
No, a true minor would be...
Pathetic. I really didn't want to talk about this person for the longest time when he was first brought up, since I really couldn't describe or decide where to put him in this video. But over the past couple of months in this situation, it kind of seems that he really wants to be called out. There is honestly so many things to cover with Pizza Hyper, such as the evidence of how much of a homophobe he is for not allowing gays in the server, showing he's extremely racist, horny as fuck, nothing wrong with that, but seriously, this is what you see in hell. Like, everything about this is just wrong. Even adults can't view this shit. This is literally the worst form of torture. There is a ton of emotional manipulation involved in his audience of clueless children who are probably just, a step above Pizza Hypers. Probably the biggest highlight that comes out of the Pizza Hyper situation was the evidence of the Selena account. For context, this is Pizza Hyper's fictional relationship, in which he has made another Discord account to sexually roleplay with himself. Moving on. There's also evidence of the anger issues as well as emotional manipulation. I never really saw the point of actually calling out Pizza Hyper around the time of his height. I mean, yeah, he's a very problematic human being and he does some fucked up shit. But in all honesty, there's really nothing wrong with making not safe for work artwork, just my only problem is to not share it with minors. If there's anything I really do have a problem with him about, is his ridiculous outburst of calling people the N-word, homophobia, and his enablers who allow him to do these actions. In all sincerity, his enablers are just as bad as he is, as they allow his behavior to go unnoticed and create a force field of pizza to do pretty much whatever he desires, since there's no one allowed to criticize him. I mean, it's crazy how some of them are just so oblivious of how damaging these actions can be sometimes. I feel in the long term of things, Pizza Hyper could be a massive problem eventually, but for the time being, I'm just gonna sit back on the sidelines and just watch everything happen. He's done some fucked up shit, I'm aware, but nothing to the point that I'm gonna step in and consider it illegal, such as dating a minor or sharing porn with minors. I kinda see Pizza Hyper similar to Chris Chan. It's obvious that he's a very problematic human being. People make fun of him for what he does, and eventually it's just going to be sad for seeing a bunch of people finding entertainment on a clearly unstable person. Now, what do you think is worse than a bunch of predators in a community? Well, people accepting the fact that they are predators and letting them off scot-free. It's really eye-opening. Out of every type of person in the community decides to defend and enable, are the people in question. There are reasons why people are called out and so rallied up with support. It's because they're popular. They're members in the community and a lot of people look up to them as they're an artist or a content creator. Through some make little to no sense why people would rush to defend them, such as Kitty with her acknowledgement of how mediocre she was. A lot of people look up to that person in question and aren't smart to actually look into the situation. So they just rush to defend them without knowing the situation and how damaging it could be. I feel now that kids in this community are just way more vulnerable in this community than ever before, as the adults can take advantage of naive children with their acknowledgements of their social status in the community. Like, have we evolved as human beings that we're so desperate for attention that we will saw off our own limbs or to do potentially illegal actions in order for a slither of attention, not caring if it's positive or negative? It's actually gotten to the point that members are willing to strive for negative attention over positive attention, since people are more willing to gravitate towards negativity than positivity because, well, humans are always looking for problems to fix, even if it's the cost of attention and your credibility and reputation, such as the case for those who fake their death, of course. But, in this community, you'll just be inevitably shunned just 2 weeks later if you leave the internet, I've mentioned this before in the GF Craze video that you should be very cautious when being in contact with those content creators who are being called out for their revolting actions as well as their followers, as these are the type of people who turn a blind eye on people who they side with, as they're willing to bite off someone's head for not agreeing with them. By all means, I'm not going to tell you guys to, stop watching content creators who have done these vile actions. It's totally fine if you want to watch their content, you should just be aware of what they are. But it's very interesting that those fans are willing to bite off the head of someone they don't agree with, such as Scott with his feud with TCS. Like, Flying Scott interprets a joke the wrong way, and people are ready to grab their pitchforks and swords, ready to slay him. But the moment it's someone in their circle of friends, they just give them the benefit of the doubt. Why is that?
Thank you. I think I shall visit him.
Of course. He's mad, too.
But I don't want to go among mad people.
Oh, you can't help that. Most everyone's mad here.
Everything I've just said in this video in the last few minutes can always be circled back to this individual. Faking your death by putting it on blast in a community to see it as a way to restart your online reputation, and to ultimately make suicide and mental health a joke. Leeching off being a victim with the backing of the Splatoon and the TF2 community with heavy as squid, and making the fatal mistake when you're on top of that social ladder. I'll be covering all of these one by one, as there's been so much that has been discovered of Ellie in the past few months that I could probably make an entire video discussing about it all. But it's good to have a refresher of what she's done, as it's still pretty prevalent in this community. If we hit 1k, I'll fucking do it again. Now, with her suicide attempt, some big fucking red flags were formed after she died. Such as waking up after a few minutes after she's committed suicide, which is physically impossible since once asphyxiated, you can't wake up since, well, you're dead. And her reasoning that she was alive is that her cat saved her, which really just goes to show how insensitive she is to those in the call. Like, I don't know if she actually knew that any of them had suicidal thoughts or lost someone special to it, since, well, she doesn't care about anyone besides herself, since, unless you kiss her ass and serve everything on a silver platter, she doesn't fucking care about you. Now, after her suicide attempt, she released a video giving an explanation on it all, hiding the truth about it under a light goal to explain the situation.
But if you basically want me to explain, if you want to actually see the document, get this live stream up to 10 likes or something, I don't know.
No sane human being would leave the truth behind a light goal. It's like if I was reading a story right now, but I didn't tell the conclusion and say you have to pay $10 to hear the ending of the story. How fucking greedy do you have to be? But she eventually did tell it though, stating that she tied her bathrobe to the head of her bed and she started choking herself, which I can easily prove it's fake by tying it to a door and pushing it forward. It cannot choke me. So that was a bullshit attempt to tell the truth. Ellie Godelia is also a prime example of what can happen to someone when they have too much power with the backing of both the Splatoon and the TF2 community. Ellie had the chance to fix the community due to her status and support that she had at the time, but she didn't. Instead, she enabled her agenda of degeneracy and allowed perverts and pedophiles to roam in this community and have a field day with minors, and to push the excuse of it was in the past as a way to gain acceptance back into a community. Because if Ellie deemed it okay, everyone else did as well. In fact, I'm going to be theorizing that she popularized faking her death as it seemingly gained even more attention from both her fans as well as people who despise her. Ellie was the first person to use this manipulation tactic as a way to gain sympathy and attention. She was the first one to do it, and she certainly wasn't the last one. I'm personally addressing this to Ellie Godelia right now. I don't know how the fuck you're still in this community. You have not made the community any better in the slightest, but have just repeated history. In other communities with members with, half-functioning brain cells, would have you gone with the snap of my fingers. Because do you really apologize for the actions that you've done in order for them to learn and to not commit them again? Or do you just apologize for just getting caught and to get a negative view of you? I'll let you be the judge of that, because you have proven to us all time and time again that you choose the latter option. It is truly outstanding that after so many people, such as TCS, Mocha, and Ellie's own personal friend, has tried their hardest to fix everything, yet Ellie has shown time and time again that she is one of the most ignorant and unreliable people to have. And as ruthless as I may sound, even though I would feel bad for her being groomed, she gets what she fucking deserves afterwards. I said this in my Ellie video, but I cannot imagine how people like her are going to be when she comes to, getting a job and living in the real world. Because trust me, It'll be a very interesting conversation when they find out about her online presence and her past. It's also worth mentioning that back when Ellie was the victim of Heavy, the big Gmod and SFM YouTubers would feature her in their videos. But ever since that, she's been under fire for faking her death. The only people who are willing to feature her in their videos are those with a very small following at all. Life after death really affects people in different ways, I guess. Now, I'm aware there's been a lot of information, like I've said. I know that the 7 Deadly Boomers have released a voice chat with Ellie, but I would probably be here for another half an hour explaining it all. Plus, this video by Flying Scott, who does a marvelous job at the final part of the Ellie Downfall trilogy, which was started by LOL Attack. I shall link the interview in the description as well as the video for Scott if you want to listen to it all. It's around an hour and a half for the interview, and the Scott's video is like around half an hour, so if you got like 2 hours to kill. If you want someone to blame for the state of the community, let Ellie know that Joxic told you to say fuck you for making this community how it is. We place our whole fate as a member onto one person who's not even mature enough to distinguish criticism and hate. Where you can get attacked by delusional fans for criticizing and helping people out to better themselves. Where suicide and mental health is not taken seriously since the higher-ups push the agenda of faking your death as a mechanism for gaining attention. Where the highest members in the social ladder in this community is so lazy that she asks everyone to spoon-feed her and to do everything for her. Where pedophiles and perverts are defended for being criminals in this community. Where the victims of the drama accounts are brutally attacked by the mainstream fans since the perpetrator has a massive following of children to defend them. When the most dishonest and lazy members are treated the best by the fan base, where the higher-ups and enailers believe that getting rid of drama accounts will solve cancel culture, where we're still deciding that after so many fuck-ups, we still can't figure out a way to better the higher-ups in the community, when criticizing those people can get you punished, where using the excuse of forgetting major issues or saying it was in the past can automatically prove your innocence, when Ellie Godelia says you just can't earn respect, you have to work for it, but has proven time and time again that she respects no one but herself unless you kiss her off and serve shit to her on a silver platter, only to be easily replaced by someone who does your job better. We are constantly being manipulated and censored to the point that criticism isn't welcome. Reality checks from people with common sense isn't welcome, since everyone is expressed as a special snowflake, and those who are willing to spend time out of the day to get the word out about people who are potential problems for the community, yet are not respected by any of the mainstream members, since they don't seem to notice it as an issue until it's damaging to them personally. Because, well, hey, you're playing under their rules. Whatever that means. In reality, there isn't much I can do, you know. I can make a bunch of noise, I can play heavy music, I can let out a blaze of fury to signify nothing. But this is a reality. This is the Spot Source community. And I've got one last trick up my sleeve to weasel out a little response out of Big Sister herself. I'm getting desperate with this one, I'll admit it, but let's face it. It's no secret that none of you can fucking animate in this community. Now, I'm not some expert in animation. I've done it for around like 2 years at my school, but as a commentator in this community, I'm allowed to criticize the works of others honestly. Now, for the most part, animation, whether it being 2D or 3D, takes a lot of time to produce, a lot of love and care into them, as well as a lot of rewatchability. Some of the greatest works on this site are animations, as YouTube allows creative freedom for the platform, for the most part, that is. There has been so many great animes over the years, such as Oni, Scott Falco, Terminal Montage, and Eager Raptor, just to name a few. These are some of the people who came from sites such as Newgrounds and have reached unprecedented amount of heights when they came over to YouTube. So what about Splatoon animation? Well, there are great animations out there and deserve the viewership due to how high quality these videos are, such as Barry Mitchell, John Sandwich, and Makeda Enderfox. You can tell just from watching their animations alone that there is a lot of time that has been dedicated to build these highly fleshed out videos, and are definitely people to inspire to the next generation of animators for this community. But when you dive into that part of the SFM and Gmod community, that's when shit hits the fan. Through my time discovering this wasteland of a site, I think I have found the most lazy and successful creators on the site. You see, with many of these content creators, which is super prevalent, such as Brian Jackson and Lizzie the Rat School for Pick Surprise Expose for Laziness, you can easily distinguish that some of these scenes in these animations are very limited in animations or use screenshots to simulate the movement of animation. In fact, I'll just let this video by Pick Surprise explain it for a better understanding of what I'm trying to explain.
Most of the animations she shits out onto this channel, she only uses 2 frames repeatedly when characters are talking. She'll pose a model, take 2 screenshots, one of the mouth open and one of the mouth closed, and then play them back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for as long as the sentence is playing. It's just a shame, really, how little effort has been put into some of these talking animations. You'd think with an audience the size of hers should actually put some more effort into the lip sync.
So, there has been a bit of an aftermath for all these creators that I did mention. After the Pick Surprise video on Lizzie the Rat School, she's actually improved on her artwork, but her animations are, in my opinion, still mediocre at best. Our good friend Brian Jackson is also under fire for being lazy with his animations around 2019. But watching his apology video, his reasoning why he was so choppy with his animation was that his videos were considered comic dubs, which just really feels like a lazy excuse to hide the fact that you cannot animate or are just too lazy to put the effort in your own works. And my last one that I would like to talk about, which has come to my attention recently from one of my subscribers, has been Robert Sexton. Wow. He really didn't try to hide it, I swear. I know that I'm probably missing a few, such as, TCS and GF, but for the most part, there are at least some quality that is put into their works. And you need to realize that these people have like hundreds and thousands of followers, which may not be massive for YouTube standards, but are just fucking staggering for the Splatoon community. So if they're mediocre as hell with their content, how the hell have they gained so many subs and have such a massive following? It's simple. They feature their fans. By using this, it creates a better connection with the audience and creator. It creates trust with the fan, since they're willing to add their viewer in future uploads. So it's a good move for the creator's part, as well as being in a circle of people so they can all gain similar rates of subscribers. But here's where things go kind of downhill. What do all these creators have in common? Well, they've been exposed for not taking criticism and predatory intentions. One of them kind of being not as noticeable as the rest. This is ultimately my biggest gripe with these creators, is they use their fans in their videos as a way for their fans to have a better connection. But most of the creators don't seem to understand not to talk to a child in a sexual manner. I don't know how that is hard at all, but the worst part being is that most of their fans are children who aren't aware of this behavior, so most of them just kind of sees it as normal. And once the information about these creators come out, the drama accounts shared around so people can spread awareness to the members of what they've done. Now, you may have remembered I told you that all these creators are in like a circle of people connecting together. Well, because they have such a huge number of fans collectively, they defend their friends from obvious problems such as pedophilia. The most common excuse I've heard was that it's in the past, or they changed over time, and God fucking forbid you for saying that they was photoshopped. I highly doubt that they actually, look into the situation, which is why this part of the community is just so filled to the brim of people who are oblivious of what they have done. I mean, Ellie has full acknowledgement of what GF was, a predator, yet still decided to invite him into a server full of minors. And her reasoning that why he invited her is that GF's a friend. If you are willing to defend a fucking predator because they are considered your friend, yet not listen to a personal friend who has actually sacrificed their time trying to better you when they find out about your online presence and your past, if I'm wrong, Pick Surprise is wrong. Someone who has actually tried to help you, Ellie, and the community with Heavy the Squid. And how do you repay? A cesspool of degenerates in a completely unstable community.
There would have been a time for such a word. Tomorrow. And tomorrow. And tomorrow. Creeps in this petty pace from day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. Life is but a walking shadow. A poor player that struts and frets his hour up on the stage. And then is heard no more.
I mean, this is just the ultimate test to see if the mainstream actually cares about the safety of the community or more about your friends and the acknowledgement of your friends being predators. You know, I can excuse maybe the first time defending GF, but if the community believes that getting rid of drummer accounts is going to just make the community better, then I don't see a problem of getting rid of predators to make it a safe environment for children. I mean, the ball's in your court. This is just the ultimate test to see if the double standards you have for the mainstream, Ellie. Best case scenario, these people who are clearly problems will get eradicated, never to be heard of again. Worst case scenario, well, I prove my point.
And what might that be? That you're the hero for the Splat Source community? Aren't you some self-absorbed little prick?
So, you finally turned up. I've been waiting for you, actually. You must be part of the mainstream as well. Well, if that's the case, I have no choice but to defeat you.
You defeating me? What an arrogant kid you must be. I think you'll enjoy visiting the place I call home.